What's up, everyone? What's going on? This is the year in wrestling 1996 part 5 video of the year 1996. I'll talk a little bit about ECW and a lot about WCW pay-per-views and WWF and some news that happened, news items in wrestling in 96. First, I'm going to talk about some news items from September 30th, 96. U.S. champion Ric Flair is attacked by the NWO on Nitro, and he aggravates a shoulder injury he suffered in Japan several weeks earlier. Ric Flair opts for surgery and is expected to be out of action until spring of 97. October 7th, 96, Jeff Jarrett makes his Nitro debut and aligns himself with WCW as they continue the fight against the NWO. October 21st, 96, Bret Hart ends months of speculation and announces that he has turned down a great offer from WCW to return to the WWF. And a match with Stone Cold Steve Austin is announced when Bret Hart and Vince McMahon both call the best wrestler in the WWF, or Bret Hart, I guess, was called the best wrestler in the WWF, and I guess Bret Hart and Vince said that they thought Stone Cold was the best wrestler, so Bret Hart signs to have a match with Stone Cold Steve Austin at Survivor Series 96. And that's one more thing about 96 news items. November 4th, after nearly 4 years in the same time slot, Monday Night Raw moves to 1 hour earlier in an effort to boost ratings. That night on Raw, November 4th, featured the gun angle with Brian Pillman and Stone Cold Steve Austin, where Stone Cold was outside of Brian Pillman's house, beat up his friends, beat the crap out of his friends, threw one of them in a kiddie pool. Then he broke in Brian Pillman's house. And then when he broke in and got in, he was coming towards Brian Pillman. Brian Pillman said he said earlier on in the show that he had a gun and he was going to shoot Stone Cold's ass if he came in his house. And when Stone Cold was coming towards him, Brian Pillman started pointing a gun at Stone Cold and threatened to shoot him. And then the cameras got cut off, and they didn't show it. Anyways, obviously he did not shoot Stone Cold. When they came back from commercial, Stone Cold was out of the house, and they said Stone Cold left when he saw the gun. Very controversial angle involving a gun. Looked like a real gun. I'm sure it was not loaded, but it looked like a real gun. Involving real guns in the wrestling angles and storylines is just stupid and should never be done again. It's just, you can't go that far. That's going too far, and that's crossing a line with all the goddamn gun violence that happens in America. All the murders that happen in America by gun violence is out of control. In my opinion, there should be way, way, way stronger gun laws, but there isn't. Anyways, no need to involve guns in wrestling storylines, and I'm sure we'll never see a gun involved in future storylines. Now I'm going to talk about WWF. In Your House, not Mind Games, Buried Alive. The October 96 pay-per-view that took place from Indianapolis, Indiana. And I forgot to show this in one of my earlier videos about 96. Here's a ticket. You can see the back says it's Ticketmaster. This is my ticket from the King of the Ring 1996. As you can see, I actually had to write the King of the Ring name over the original name because the letters faded out. There, I don't know if you can see the date. It says June 23rd on it. Anyways, this is my ticket to show you proof that I was at the King of the Ring 96. And it was only a $15 ticket. And I had pretty damn close seats. So, ticket prices have definitely gone up. You cannot get a good seat anymore for $15. If they do even sell $15 tickets, you would probably be up in the nosebleed seats. But anyways, this is my ticket from King of the Ring 96. Thought I'd share that with you all. Now, I'm going to talk about Buried Alive in Your House. Took place on October 20th, 96. First match of the pay-per-view was Stone Cold Steve Austin defeating Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And that basically Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley jobbed to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that, this was Stone Cold's a couple months after winning the King of the Ring, so of course he should have went over, and he did. Up next, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley was substituting for an injured Savio Vega. So I guess Savio was supposed to work with Stone Cold. Up next, World Tag Team Champions Owen Hart and the British Bulldog defeat the Smoking Guns to retain. Intercontinental Champion Wildman Mark Merrow defeated Goldust. And Goldust was substituting for an injured Farouk. Psycho Sid, I almost said Sid Vicious, but he was Psycho Sid in the WWF. So Psycho Sid defeated Vader to earn a shot to get a world title shot at the Survivor Series against Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels was not on the Buried Alive pay-per-view. And in the main event, The Undertaker and Mankind wrestled in a Buried Alive match. It was the first ever Buried Alive match. Very innovative concept. Very good match. Taker and Mankind put on. They had great chemistry and they put on a great match. And The Undertaker defeated Mankind in the Buried Alive match. And after it, The Undertaker was attacked. And you had guys like JBL, Justin Hawk Bradshaw come out, Goldust come out. And I think even the Executioner came out. The Executioner wore a mask and he was Terry Gordy, former Freebird. Anyways, they all attacked Undertaker, threw him in the grave. And they started throwing dirt on him. All three guys were digging, throwing dirt on The Undertaker to bury him. And then before the pay-per-view ended, you had The Undertaker's hand come out from under the ground like he was still alive. And of course he was, because you can't kill The Undertaker gimmick. So that was Buried Alive. A lot of In Your House pay-per-views I thought were always just decent. They weren't very good. They only had one or two good matches on basically all the In Your House pay-per-views. Out of all the matches, you probably only got one or two very good matches, or good matches, on the In Your House pay-per-views. But they got much better in 98, when they still had the In Your House name connected to pay-per-views. They got much better. So that was In Your House Buried Alive. Good pay-per-view, good Buried Alive match. that's basically the only thing I was entertained by, was the Buried Alive match. Up next, I'm going to talk about WCW Halloween Havoc 96. Halloween Havoc took place on October 27th, 96, 1 week after In Your House Buried Alive from Las Vegas, Nevada. First match of the pay-per-view, Dean Malenko defeated Cruiserweight Champion Rey Mysterio Jr. to regain and win the Cruiserweight Championship. Diamond Dallas Page defeated Eddie Guerrero. They had a good match. DDP and Eddie always worked well together. Also, Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio also worked really well together. Lex Luger defeated Arn Anderson, Four Horsemen member, by submission. Six, formerly the 1-2-3 Kid 6 of the NWO, defeated Chris Jericho. The Giant defeated, in his WCW pay-per-view wrestling debut, the Giant defeated Jeff Jarrett by disqualification. Chris Benoit and Steve McMichael defeated the Barbarian and Meng. The Faces of Fear, I think they were named. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash challenged the WCW Tag Team Champions Harlem Heat, and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, the Outsiders, won the WCW Tag Team titles on Halloween Havoc. And the main event was WCW World Champion Hollywood Hulk Hogan defending against Macho Man Randy Savage. The build-up on Nitros before Halloween Havoc, they really were putting Macho Man Randy Savage through hell, was the NWO. You had Hogan and the NWO. They had Miss Elizabeth, held hostage, but she eventually turned and became a member of the NWO. So you had the NWO basically making Macho Man's life a living hell, having his ex-wife in the NWO and with Hogan. And you had Hollywood Hogan on the mic on Nitros before Halloween Havoc, ripping the Macho Man and getting really personal on the microphone with him and Miss Elizabeth in their past relationship, saying how Macho Man was not the man and he couldn't satisfy Elizabeth and he wasn't the man, and that Hogan was way more of a man than him. So it was a pretty good build-up for Savage versus Hogan at Halloween Havoc 96, but the match wasn't very good at all. It was just okay. But Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, Halloween Havoc 96, I thought was a very good show. Might have been better than Buried Alive. So that was Halloween Havoc 96. There weren't, there were pretty many matches on it, but not that many. Now I'm going to talk about WWF Survivor Series 96. Took place from MSG, Madison Square Garden, on November 17th, 96. And the night before Survivor Series, I think they had a WWF Hall of Fame induction ceremony. They put in Jimmy Superfly Snuka and some other people. So here we go with Survivor Series. The first match on the pay-per-view, it was a Survivor Series elimination tag team match. Doug Furnas and Philip Lathon teamed with the Godwins. They defeated the team of Owen Hart, Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, and the New Rockers. Up next, it was another Undertaker versus Mankind matchup on pay-per-view in 96. They wrestled at the King of the Ring for the first time. Then they wrestled at SummerSlam. Then they wrestled at Buried Alive in Your House. So this was their fourth pay-per-view working together in 96. The Undertaker defeats Mankind. And in a pre-match stipulation, Paul Bearer had to be suspended above the ring in a cage for the match, and he was. And I believe the Executioner again, who was Terry Bam Bam Gordy, former Freebird member. Terry Gordy as the Executioner ran out at the end of the match, came out, and I believe he attacked The Undertaker. Up next was a Survivor Series elimination tag team match. The team of Mark Merrill, Barry Windham. He was known as the Stalker, but he was Barry Windham. Rocky Maivia, The Rock, making his WWF Wrestling pay-per-view debut at Survivor Series 96, and he did shine in this match, did The Rock. He really shined, and he looked like a star. And the last team member of The Rock's team was Jake the Snake Roberts. They defeated the team of Goldust, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Jerry the King Lawler, and Crush. And as I said, Rocky Maivia, I understand they gave him that name because of his family. His uncle was Peter Maivia, and his father was Rocky Johnson, so they gave him the name Rocky Maivia. I get that. But it was his look. He looked like a star, but he also looked just pretty cheesy. His in-ring gear looked pretty damn cheesy and awful. And gladly, in 97, The Rock, they turned him heel and they put him in the Nation of Domination. That was the right decision because the fans started chanting, "Die, Rocky, die." They did not like him as a babyface. And you can't push. WWE tries to do it a lot, but you can't push someone if the fans don't care about them. And if they don't get a reaction. As a babyface, you cannot force the fans to cheer someone they don't like. So, but The Rock looked really good in his debut. He would get better and better in late 97 and 98 and 99. Obviously, The Rock became a huge, mega superstar. One of the top faces of the WWF at the time. One of the top guys for sure. Him and Stone Cold, The Rock and Stone Cold were neck and neck. They were both top superstars. Next was Bret the Hitman Hart making his return to WWF pay-per-view at the Survivor Series. Bret Hart defeated Stone Cold Steve Austin in his return, and this was a great wrestling match. It was very, very good. I enjoyed it a lot. Another Survivor Series elimination match. The team of Yokozuna, Yokozuna, Savio Vega, Flash Funk, and Jimmy Snuka defeated the team of Vader, Farouk, the new Razor Ramon. I called him the fake Razor Ramon, and the new Diesel, who was Kane. Kane was playing the new Diesel. And they lost to the team of Yoko, Savio, Flash Funk, and Jimmy Superfly Snuka. And this was Flash Funk's WWF debut. He just came from ECW. His last show was November to Remember 96. So Flash Funk debuted in the WWF right after ECW November to Remember. And if you ever seen November to Remember 96 from ECW, they did a great thing with 2 Cold Scorpio on that show, where he kept defeating basically mid-card jobbers. He kept defeating them, and then he kept getting on the microphone and said, "Is this all the talent you got, ECW? Is this all you got? Send out another guy." And they would send out another job guy, and Too Cold Scorpio would kick his ass. And then he called another person on the microphone. And then finally a star came out to challenge Too Cold Scorpio. I can't remember who it was, but that's because I haven't watched ECW November to Remember 96 in years and years. I've not seen the show. And I don't have the results in front of me. The main event was of Survivor Series 96, Psycho Sid challenging Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship was on the line. And Psycho Sid pretty shockingly wins the title. I did not expect that when it happened. I was really surprised and shocked, and I was pretty happy. I marked out. I enjoyed Sid winning the title. I was a big Shawn Michaels fan in 96, but I was pulling more for Sid to win the title, and he did. And the crowd in MSG loved it. They were cheering Sid the entire match, and they wanted Sid to win the title. And after he won it, the crowd loved it. They wanted to hug Sid on the outside of the ring, and he was giving fist bumps. He'd always do that. When you come down to the ring, he'd give his fist bumps out. He was giving fist bumps to everybody in the audience after he won the title. The crowd in New York loved it. A lot of the time, the crowds in New York always cheer for the heels. So that was Survivor Series 96. It was a pretty damn good show. Stone Cold versus Brett was great, and Sid winning the title was also great. And we also saw the debut of Rocky Maivia, The Rock, and Flash Funk, formerly Too Cold Scorpio. So now I'm going to talk about WCW World War III 96, the second ever World War III pay-per-view event. And then I'll be done talking about 96, and I'll do a part 6. This is part 5 of 96. I'll do a part 6 about Starrcade and the last WWF pay-per-view from December 96 in your house. So I'll talk about 2 pay-per-views, the very last 2 pay-per-views in my next video, to make it shorter. And to make this video a little bit shorter. I don't want to go 30 minutes. World War III took place on November 24th, 96 from Norfolk, Virginia, whatever the hell the name is. I can't say it right now. But it took place in Virginia. First match of World War III 96 was Ultimo Dragon defeating Rey Mysterio Jr. 2 awesome cruiserweights. They had a great match. It was great to watch. Ultimo Dragon, when he came out to the ring, he had like 9 belts. He had 8 or 9 different title belts on him. I guess he won a whole bunch of them from different companies in Mexico and Japan. Some were probably cruiserweight titles and probably New Japan Pro Wrestling titles. Probably one of them was a Super J-Cup title. I don't know. But he had 9 or 8 belts with him when he came down to the ring. So that was awesome to see. It was just cool to see a guy coming out holding 8 or 9 titles. Maybe it was 7 titles. But it was a lot. Up next, you had, with one arm tied behind his back, Lionheart, Chris Jericho taking on Nick Patrick, the crooked referee that joined the NWO. But Jericho still defeated Nick Patrick with one arm tied behind his back. The Giant defeated Jeff Jarrett again for the second straight pay-per-view in a row. And the Giant would go on later to make history in World War III and win it. The amazing French Canadians, they were formerly the Quebecers in the WWF and former WWF Tag Champions. They were called the Amazing French Canadians. This match was between, I believe, between Harlem Heat and the amazing French Canadians. Harlem Heat defeated the amazing French Canadians, and because Harlem Heat won, since Sister Sherry was given 5 minutes alone in the ring with Colonel Parker, and she beat the crap out of him. Cruiserweight champion Dean Malenko defeated Psychosis to retain the Cruiserweight title. World Tag Team Champions Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, the Outsiders, defeated the Nasty Boys and the Faces of Fear in a triangle match. And then you had the main event, which was a 3-ring battle royal, 20 men in each ring. It was really hard to follow because the camera, they tried to put 3 little screens with each ring on each screen and 20 guys in each ring. It was too goddamn hard to follow and to watch. You couldn't follow along. You didn't know what the hell was going on. You didn't know who was getting eliminated because there was 3 goddamn rings. But in the beginning, this was entertaining. You had the 4 Horsemen, I believe Arn Anderson and Chris Benoit and Steve McMichael, because Ric Flair was not there. He was not on World War III because he got injured. He was out of action. So you had the Horsemen feuding with the Dungeon of Doom, and they were brawling on the outside of the ring and beating the crap out of each other. And then they took out the announcer, Lee Marshall. They took him out. He was laying on the floor. And he was probably got injured. So that was awesome to start World War III, where they had a fight and a brawl outside of the ring. Anyways, the winner of World War III was the NWO, the Giant. He was a new member of the NWO. He wins World War III 96. The last guys that were in it, I believe, were Lex Luger and I don't remember who else. Maybe Rick Steiner. You had a lot of NWO guys in there that were left. I believe you had Scott Hall might have been in there. Kevin Nash, I think, was in there. And I think Lex Luger actually picked up Kevin Nash and put him in the torture rack and eliminated him. And then you had 6 in there. So a lot of NWO members were helping the Giant win it. But the Giant does win World War III, and he gets a future WCW World title shot. He obviously would not last long in the NWO. He would get kicked out of the NWO in January 97 because he wanted his title shot against Hogan, against Hollywood Hogan in the NWO, and Hollywood Hogan did not want to give the Giant a title shot because Hogan was afraid of him. Anyways, so they threw the Giant out of the NWO and attacked him. And then in January 97, he would face Hogan at NWO Sold Out. That was World War III pay-per-view. The Giant wins the 3-ring 60-man battle royal. You also had Rowdy Piper. He debuted in WCW at Halloween Havoc 96. Rowdy Piper came down to the ring at World War III to sign the contract to face Hogan at Starrcade 96. Contract signing. Hollywood Hogan was there. Eric Bischoff was there. He just turned on WCW, and Rowdy Piper and Eric Bischoff just joined the NWO, I think, a week earlier on Nitro. So You had Piper there, Hogan, Bischoff, Ted DiBiase was there with Virgil. And then you had Virgil near Roddy Piper, standing near him. And Roddy Piper sat on the mic and yelled at him, "I taught you how to fight." And then he gave Virgil a chop on his chest and said, "Back up," or "Back the hell up." And then he slapped him on the chest and said, "I taught you how to fight." And he was talking to Virgil. They were calling Virgil's name was Vincent in WCW, Vincent. Anyways, that was an entertaining contract signing at World War III. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Hogan and Piper facing off on the microphone. And I enjoyed Rey Mysterio and Ultimo Dragon. And I guess I enjoyed the World War III Battle Royal. But to watch it, to follow it, it was a mess. Until the very end, when they would bring 10 guys, or 20, I think 20 of the last guys from the other 2 rings. They'd bring, 5 guys from one ring, 5 from the other, and or 10 from both rings. I don't even know. I'm confused. Anyways, the last ring, I think they'd have 20 guys in it to fight and battle it out to win World War III. So that's the only way you could follow it, is when it was down to 20 guys. That's the only way you could follow it, and it got entertaining. World War III was never, ever, ever as entertaining as the Royal Rumble matches were. It just wasn't, and it never was going to be. Anyways, I'm done talking about the year in wrestling 1996, part 5 video. This was part 5. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy Monday Night Raw if you're going to watch it tonight. I'll be on Twitter live tweeting during the entire Monday Night Raw. Anyway, see you then. I'll be on Twitter at TNA WWE Guy. See you then. Bye for now, everybody.